No one likes to see a grown-up child, a human being who is societally seen as an adult but still conducts themselves as if they're 10 years old. And not in the positive, still maintaining their childhood spirit sense, but in the sense they adopt no personal responsibility and their life is about as organised as a woman's handbag. So in the next few minutes we're going to explore the 11 laws of maturity as outlined by modern philosopher Mark Manson, because we could all do with cultivating a bit more of it. Number 1. Don't try. The best gravestone to have ever been made was Charles Bukowski's. Not because he's dead, but because of what he had inscribed on his tombstone. Don't try. Charles Bukowski was an American-born poet and author who lived a early begrudgingly boring life of dull jobs until he made it as a writer. And his philosophy of don't try encapsulates something called the backwards law of life. Have you ever noticed the more you try to achieve something, the less able you are to get it? But paradoxically, when you let go of your attempts to make something happen, it naturally occurs. For example, the more you try to be certain about something, the more uncertain you feel. The more secure you try to make yourself feel, the more the feeling of insecurity gnaws away at you. But the more you embrace the nature of uncertainty, the more certain you feel. The more you express the vulnerability to embrace your insecurities, the less insecure you feel. When you care less about something, you do better at it. When you're least worried about success is when you become most successful. When you care less about what other people think about you and start to embrace your insecurities, you then become more charismatic. When you embrace your suffering instead of trying to avoid it, you're able to build confidence in the face of life's challenges. So this highlights our first law of maturity. We cannot escape caring about things in life, so we must choose carefully what we care about and understand that anything we care about too much will cause us suffering because we'll be holding on too tightly to a desired outcome. Law number 2. Forget about happiness. Unfortunately, we live in a society that tries to shove one big fat lie down our throat. You should always be happy, and being anything less than happy is a failure on your part. Look at everyone else on your social media who's happy all of the time. Why can't you just be more like them? But aiming to feel good all the time is actually contrary to our nature. The truth is, us humans are not optimised for happiness. We're optimised for survival, meaning your brain didn't evolve for you to stand in front of a mirror and chant positive affirmations to yourself. Instead, it evolved to help you stop picking your nose when a saber-toothed tiger is running towards you and instead run for your life. Emotions are simply biological signals designed to nudge you in the direction of beneficial change, and difficult emotions are simply a call to action. Maturity begins when we choose to see our pain and misery not as a bug of human existence, but as a feature, something very necessary and fundamental to the reality of being human. It's only by listening to the feedback our emotions provide that we can listen to what they're trying to say and use that as positive energy to channel into the direction of changing our behaviour. One of the marks of adult maturity is a balanced relationship between the emotions and rational control systems, which allows for emotional responses without permitting them to overwhelm reason. Society also paints a picture, through social media, that it's possible to rid yourself of all of your life's problems, and anyone who doesn't live a problem-free life is failing. After all, that fitness influencer who we see online every day for 60 seconds appears to live a perfect life, completely devoid of problems with his huge mansion, perfect family life, while we're sat at 4 PM in our dressing gowns eating a bowl of cornflakes, wondering why it didn't work out with that girl we dated at 18. So we become more mature when we understand living a life without problems is impossible. So we must choose our problems wisely. When confronted with a decision, ask, does this add good problems to my life? For you understand nothing comes for free, and nothing comes without the promise of issues. Even those high-flying individuals who we might envy in society, the millionaire, the playboy, or the extremely talented, all have problems. The millionaire has to wrestle with old friends who want a payout. The playboy has to wrestle with extreme demands on his time. And the extremely talented entrepreneur wakes up every single day with an insatiable ambition. No one's life is devoid of problems. It's just some people have been able to upgrade the quality of their problems. Law number 3. You are not special. We all had different childhoods, which means we were all praised in different ways. Perhaps our parents showered us with "clever boy, oh my god, you're so smart," or with an inner scorn which left all of our accomplishments go unrecognised. Whatever the case, the third law of maturity is to recognise, despite your pre-bedtime fantasies and delusions of grandeur, you're actually very average, and that's fine. Most people fall into the slippery slope of deluded narcissism or victimhood by believing, my problems are so special, I'm the only person on earth who experiences them and who has ever experienced them. But the truth is, Everything you and I face on a daily basis has been faced again and again and again by billions of people. So there's no such thing as a personal problem. There's just human problems. That doesn't mean what you're facing right now isn't significant and you don't have a right to feel whatever you're feeling. It just means you're not special. Nor are you plagued by some mysterious universal force which has its eyes only set on you and wants to see you squirm. 4. The value of suffering. As Albert Camus taught us in his masterpiece The Plague, sometimes life just shrugs its shoulders and decides to throw us into a bottomless pit of steaming turds. Suffering is the most fundamental reality of human beings, a reality we cannot escape. But seeing as we can't escape it, it appears the way to game the system is to choose what you suffer for, because it is the way we suffer that provides our lives with meaning, even though it doesn't feel like it when our back is up against the wall. As Sigmund Freud said, one day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. So to cultivate maturity, we don't need to ask, what do I want to enjoy? But instead, what pain am I willing to sustain? Because our character is defined by what we choose to struggle for. Law number 5. You are responsible for everything that happens to you. This law states that what you pay attention to and choose to care about is being chosen in every single moment of your life. It's just sometimes we don't realise it. Adopting extreme ownership of your life will allow you to cultivate maturity single-handedly because it allows you to do one thing: improve. Responsibility is what allows us to say, yes, sometimes I'm irresponsible with money. Yeah, sometimes I exaggerate my own successes. And yeah, I rely too much on others to support me and I could be more self-reliant. But responsibility is also what allows us to conclude, but despite my shortcomings, I can work to improve them. Immaturity can be defined by a lack of ownership over one's life. The best way to conceptualise this is through the Stoic locus of control. In life, the Stoics implore us to realise there are 3 types of control we have. Things we have complete control over, such as our attitudes, thoughts and decisions. Things we have some control over, such as our material possessions and the degree to whether other people like us. And things we have no control over, such as other people's thoughts, opinions, the weather, and death. So we'd do best to focus our energy on the first category, things we have complete control over, and forget the last 2. Just to clarify some confusion, here's a quick distinction between fault and responsibility. Fault is past tense. Responsibility is present tense. You are responsible for watching this video, agreeing with what I'm saying or not. It's my fault for recording it. Perhaps badly if you don't like how I'm coming across right now. But you're responsible for coming to your own conclusions, and the degree to whether you continue watching this video or not. Law number 6. You are wrong about everything. A philosophical aspect of maturity involves embracing the Socrates principle, whereby we realise we are wise because we don't know a lot. In some situations, we might be the person who knows the most, and others are just less wrong. But more often than not, if you're able to accept that you're wrong, and that you could be wrong about everything you previously thought was right, you're liberated to hear what the other side has to say, so you can learn. Such insights allow us the grace to uphold the following principle: strong opinions held loosely. Because we're unlikely going to rid ourselves of the passion certain topics spark within us, but we can tiptoe around our opinions once they're made, just to make sure we don't hold on to something that's wrong too tightly. We might defend our views with energy, but during the conversation, if someone proposes a counter argument which seems valid, we have the grace to drop our arguments and accept what they're saying. Not as a defeat, but as a victory, because it's steering us closer to attaining wisdom. Through this lens, we can understand a lot of our views arise from our identities, which is a funny business which makes us avoidant. If you think you're a nice person, you'll avoid situations which depict you as nasty. If you think you're a great chef, you'll avoid scenarios which show your inadequacies. Maturity stems from a particular type of belief in ourselves. The belief that, no matter how great other people think we are at something, we actually think we're quite average at it. Which, again, allows us to grow. For example, when someone says, you know what, I'm not actually good at relationships, he gives himself the ability to change, instead of just staying in toxic relationships in order to prove something to himself. Lastly, what this law of maturity encapsulates is if we ever find ourselves stuck in a sticky situation in life, believing it's us versus the world, we can guarantee it's just us versus us. In other words, if you're debating whether a problem is due to you or other people, it's probably you. 7. Failure is the way forward. This law encapsulates this principle. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. We've all heard it before. Failure is good for you. You need to fail. But what separates a mature person from an immature person is the mature person, despite the 15,000 times he's had this message of failure is good for you shoved down his throat, he accepts it. The mature understand if someone else is better than them at something, it's because that person has failed more at it, and vice versa. Failure isn't fun. It's not as rosy and bubbly as the constant positivity people try and shove down our throats on social media. Seeing your first business crumble before your eyes. Messing up that communication technique you wanted to practice with your girlfriend. Trying to order coffee in that language you're learning only to realise the waiter has brought out a plate with bread and butter instead. These things aren't exactly our ideal way of spending a Wednesday afternoon. But if we don't fail, it's not that we don't grow, it's that we can't grow. So when confronted with learning something new, embracing a new value, or venturing off into a new direction in life, maturity stems from our understanding that we're gonna get some things wrong, but that's okay, because that's how we'll grow. To face failure, all we need is a growth mindset and one question kept close at hand. A growth mindset is where we believe we can change our abilities and they're not fixed. The question of growth is not to ask, how much time do I need to spend on this thing before I can become good at it, but to ask, how many reps of failure do I need to make before I can become great at it? Number 8. Toxic versus non-toxic relationships. Rule 8 of maturity is a harsh truth of life that you don't want to hear. If the people in your relationships keep doing selfish or hurtful things, it's likely you are too. You just don't realise it. Healthy love is the goal to strive for, because toxic love leads nowhere but despair, anxiety and late night text messages with paragraphs longer than Shakespeare's Hamlet. As Mark Manson distinguishes, unhealthy love is based on two people trying to escape their problems through their emotions for each other. In other words, they're using each other as an escape. Healthy love is based on two people acknowledging and addressing their own problems with each other's support. Maturity arises in relationships when you not only understand your own values, but you also understand where your personal responsibility lies with your partner. You're not responsible for making them happy, nor are you responsible for regulating their emotions, and you're not responsible for their problems, values, and boundaries. What we see in toxic relationships is people avoiding to take personal responsibility to then take responsibility for their partner's problems and boundaries. What do poor boundaries look like? Here are some examples. You can't go out with your friends without me. You know how jealous I get. You have to stay home with me. My co-workers are idiots. They always make me late to meetings because I have to tell them how to do their jobs. I can't believe you made me feel so stupid in front of my own sister. Never disagree with me in front of her again. The product of avoiding the inner pain of adopting personal responsibility and becoming entitled in our relationships leads to us expecting other people to take responsibility for our problems. Or overstepping our personal boundaries for other people leads us to adopting too much responsibility for other people's problems. I wanted a nice relaxing weekend at home. You should have known that and have cancelled your plans. She just lost her job again, but it's probably my fault because I wasn't as supportive of her as I could have been. I'm going to help her rewrite her resume tomorrow. Maturity flourishes in relationships when both people choose to support each other, not because they feel obliged or entitled to do so, but because they choose to do so. The yin-yang of toxic relationships involves two characters, the victim and the saviour. In other words, the person who starts the fires because it makes her feel important, and the person who puts the fires out because it makes him feel important. Acts of love are valid only if they're performed without conditions or expectations. Unconditional love doesn't mean you like whatever your partner likes. It means you love your partner no matter what they like. Babe, does my butt look big in this? Your girlfriend asks you. Yes, you respond, if that's what you truly think. Because the last person you should lie to is your partner, no matter the situation. Lastly, with the plethora of beautiful people who stand as potential partners for us, maturity also rises in relationships when we understand the paradox of choice. That our life dissatisfaction increases as our options for choice increase to a point of overwhelm. Where is the meaning to be found in sleeping with whoever you want? Where is the love to be found in flitting from one partner to the next? Maturity, not just in relationships but in life in general, comes from an understanding that the gold is in the depths. There are only some rewards you get to experience in life through being in a long-term relationship, learning a skill for decades, or embracing a philosophy of life for your whole existence. Enact the courage to commit, or be tormented by the possibility of everything. Number 9. The importance of saying no. We've all heard the word boundaries before. Some of us might roll our eyes because we've heard it so many times. But it is a law of maturity that without the ability to say no to the things we don't want or like, we're setting ourselves up for a miserable life. However, you might be questioning such a statement with, Lewis, of course we would say no to things we don't want or like. Who wouldn't? Well, there exist some of us who aim to accommodate the need of everyone they meet whilst neglecting themselves in the process. As much as we love them, accommodators seek to fulfill the every need of other people in the hopes that they will think positively of them in return. But they do so on the belief that if they can get other people to like them, all of the negative, hateful things they think about themselves won't be reflected back to them. Accommodators is synonymous with people pleasers. And both just need a little bit more assertiveness. Being assertive doesn't involve being an arsehole. It involves being open and honest with the person sat in front of you, with enough self-respect and respect for the other person to stand firm and communicate your wants and needs in the heat of the situation, with the belief that whatever you admit to the other person, they'll be able to handle it. Law number 10. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Integrity. What a fine word. In a simplistic sense, what separates adults from children is a commitment to one's word. So to be more mature, when you say you're going to do something, just do it, even when you're behind closed doors. Lastly, 11. And then you die. As fantastical as it might seem to embrace the idea of infinity, the last law of maturity involves a letting go of life. For the art of living also comes with the art of dying, and it is our duty as human beings and students of philosophy to accept when our time is up and to watch the curtains close without complaining. Most of us try to deny death, passing it off as something that happens to everyone else but not ourselves. So we try to escape it by building things which will last forever, like books, businesses, albums, buildings, tangible objects. But it's only through an awareness of death that we're gifted an even more vitality for life. Let us deprive death of its strangeness. Let us frequent it. Let us get used to it. Let us have nothing more in mind than death. We do not know where death awaits us, so let us wait for it everywhere. And they were the 11 laws of maturity as adapted from Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bollock. Before we go, quote of the week. People try to do all sorts of clever and difficult things to improve life instead of doing the simplest, easiest thing, refusing to participate in activities that make life bad. Muchachos, stay disciplined, playful, and dangerous.